Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome back to my channel. Consistent for the second week in a row. Yay for me. I know that's not that impressive, but for me it really is. So I hope everyone's had a fabulous week and recovered from the submarine episode last week because it was very traumatic, and recovered from my ranting. I do apologise, don't know what got into me. Just passion for winning. And I cannot get Wicked out of my head. My head is just a constant loop of going, popular. It's driving me nuts. It's giving me headaches. Stop rambling. Right, get on with it. So today's case, just to sound like a broken record once again, is one you will have probably seen on social media. Because as I'm sure I've already named this video, this is the Family Fortunes killer. So I stumbled across this. I think I stumbled across it on TikTok like everything else. And it was the clip of him, which I will insert now. No, we'll insert it later. You can wait. I've lost my train of thought. What is going on? So back to it. You can wait for the clip. I will play the clip. But yeah, it just really shocked me. Just the answer in general was quite shocking. And then obviously once you find out what he did, it's even more shocking. So I've got a few pages of information about Tim Bliefnick. I actually went on my phone whilst I was filming this video and checked that's how you said it, and now I cannot remember if that's how you said it. Bliefnick? That's what we're going with. If it's wrong, I'm sorry. I love my scripts so much because I just wing it. Like, what have I written there? Where was the Rebecca Bernadette Pulst, again, I really hope I'm pronouncing it right, was born on November 19th, 1981 in Quincy, Illinois. She graduated from Quincy Notre Dame High School in a year that I don't know, and she was the valedictorian of her year class. I don't know what a valedictorian is. I know it's good. Becky received a bachelor's degree in biological science from Quincy University and subsequently began working as a sales representative for Sanofi Advertis. I've really helped myself out here because I haven't wrote down what that is. Becky eventually advanced her career by becoming a nurse at her, I believe it was her local hospital. During COVID, Becky worked as a travelling nurse, and she worked between 2 different hospitals in Missouri, which is amazing. And she was eventually nominated for a Daisy Award for her work in nursing, just because of how amazing she was at what she was doing. Amazing. Oh my God, Becky's just the coolest person ever. She's just the nicest person, because she also volunteered for school organisations and animal shelters. Like, could you be a more decent human being? And just when you thought she couldn't get nice enough, she also had plans to volunteer at stables, which we love. Going back a bit, whilst Becky was studying at Quincy University, she met Tim Bliefnick. And he was a football player. He was a football player, and he eventually went on to earn a spot at the university's Hall of Fame. Tim and Becky married in 2009, and they went on to have 3 children together, and they settled in Quincy. So we're zooming forward in the future, 10 years in the future, and obviously Tim and Becky have now been married for 10 years, and their relationship does start to decline slightly. And in February 2019, they decided to call it quits, and they decided to separate. Becky got to stay in the family home, and Tim moved out and got himself a place about a mile away from the family home, and they both shared custody of the children. In May 2019, Tim got a spot on the game show Family Feud. He and his family flew to LA and recorded their episode. And on the 2nd of January 2020, the Family Feud episode aired. That was really hard to say. And now I will show you the clip from the Family Feud episode.
What's the biggest mistake you made at your wedding?
Honey, I love you, but said I do. Not my mistake. Not my mistake. I love my wife.
Now, despite Tim's 15 minutes of fame, which Family Feud is a big thing, but if someone went on Pointless, I don't think they'd really get 15 minutes of fame. But he might have. After his 15 minutes of fame, things within the divorce of himself and Becky were starting to get quite messy. They couldn't seem to agree on anything any longer, and they were in constant battles over financial obligations and the children. And in February 2021, things got so bad that they both filed restraining orders against each other. On the 7th of May 2021, Becky sent a message to one of her associates, and I'm going to read from the piece of paper now because I want to get it right. Becky said, "He screamed in my face, shoved me in front of the kids and thrown objects across the room where the kids and I were standing. He punched a hole in the wall. If things really don't go his way, I feel he can be very unstable and unpredictable. And the thought has gone through my mind that if I may need a restraining order, I'm definitely changing the locks as soon as I can." 2 days later, Becky texted her friend again. She said, "Tim told me if I outed his dad that he would probably have to move, then kill himself. I absolutely think he will try and take the kids sometime." Now, it's unclear what was meant by outing Tim's dad, as these files and this information has been completely sealed off from public record. So we don't actually know what this is in regards to, unfortunately. But all we know is that this was in a relation to a separate criminal case. September 4th, 2021, Becky sent another text to one of her friends. This text read, "If something ever happens to me, please make sure that the one person of interest is Tim. That is who would do something to me." In 2021, Becky filed for orders of protection against both Tim and his father. And in retaliation, Tim served her with a restraining order, which I'm pretty sure we already had, but he served her with a restraining order. So it's very childish, tit for tat. Like, I don't think he actually had any real need to file a restraining order against her. He might have, this is just my opinion, but I think he's doing it because she's done something, he has to do it. It's very petty. So in August 2022, things had again escalated to a point that a court order had to be in place in regards to the exchange of the children. The kids basically had to get themselves out the car and get their things out of the car and walk to the other parent's car. They had to stay like 3 feet away from each other. They had to stay within 3 feet of their cars doing collections and drop-offs, which is just awful that things have to get to that point. January 5th, 2023, this is really soon. Like, this is not that long ago. January 5th, 2023, Becky had met with a friend and she had confided in her about something that Tim had messaged her. She felt that Tim was starting to use intimidation as a way to manipulate her, and he had texted her saying that "you'll be dead before you ever get any money out of me," which is such a scary thing to receive from anyone, let alone someone who used to be your husband and that you share children with. It's just awful that things get to this point. Like, I don't really know kind of what went wrong and what happened to get to this stage, but it's just awful. Becky had previously purchased a 9mm gun, and Tim had possession of this gun. So she requested that this be returned to her because she felt she needed it for protection purposes. I believe Tim got in contact with the police and asked them to give it back to her. I'm assuming because of restraining orders, protection orders, things like this, and probably just because they didn't want to see each other. But police actually denied this request, which I think is very strange, because all they had to do was look on the computer and see everything that's kind of gone on with this couple. How long would it take? 10 minutes? Like, why can't you just do that? It's just... 5 days after this, they were both notified that the family court for the divorce and the final hearings, the putting everything to bed, was set for March 3rd. On the 23rd of February 2023, Becky's father was getting increasingly concerned because he had texted Becky a few times and he hadn't heard anything back from her. And this was not like her at all. Becky had recently had abdominal surgery and she was still recovering from this. So again, this just added to his worry. So Becky's father obviously was quite concerned. So he eventually takes himself over to Becky's house to go and check that she's okay. And when he gets there, the door is wide open and her car is still in the garage. So I think this would just add to panic, really. He goes in and he finds Rebecca's body on the bathroom floor, and it was clear that there was nothing he could kind of do to save her because rigor mortis had already set in. Upon further inspection of Rebecca's body, she had been shot 14 times. 14 times. Horrifyingly, none of her wounds were fatal, so she would have felt all of this and it would have taken her a few minutes to pass away from her injuries, which is just awful. Now, 14 times shooting someone, it's immediately clear that this was not an accident, this was not a robbery gone wrong, this was personal, and this person was angry So there's no prizes for guessing who they turn to first. So this bit kind of twisted my brain a little bit because it takes longer than what I would think is necessary to eventually arrest Tim. Because if Tim's not the first person you're looking at, something's gone wrong. Common sense would tell you Tim did it, but it takes 12 days for Tim to be arrested. 12? It takes nearly 2 weeks for Tim to be arrested. Who she's got final divorce court with in 5 days. Tim, who she's got restraining orders, court orders, who she's probably got a long list of stuff on police records. It's punch you in the crotch obvious that this was a very, very, very personal attack. This is massive amounts of overkill that is just not necessary. Like, the first person you would think you're looking at, and it might be the first person they were looking at, but 12 days? 12 days? Nah. So I'll take you through those 12 days. So at 3:30 p.m, 911 were called, and they showed that there was forced entry to the bedroom, and obviously Rebecca's body had multiple gunshot wounds and there were shell casings all around the room. Now we're 8 days in already, so March 1st, Tim is pulled over and he is handed search warrants for his car, his vehicle, that's the same thing, and his home. But he's not arrested, and Tim was apparently very cooperative. Friday, March 3rd, Rebecca's funeral is held at 10 a.m. at St. Peter's Church. I don't know if Tim was present. I haven't wrote that down, but I will try and find it and post it around my head somewhere. And now we're at 12 days. So 12 days after Rebecca was killed. No, it's not even 12 days after that. Are you having a giggle? 12 days after the search warrant was handed to Tim. So what's that now? 20 days? 20 days after she was killed. I tell you now, if that was my friend, sister, daughter, mother, I would be I'd have killed him by then. I'm not condoning violence, murder, whatever, but I do condone revenge in some aspects. I'd have killed him by then. Like, there's just 20 days. So, sorry, back to the story. 12 days after the search warrants were issued, there was a press conference held, and they stated in that press conference that at 8:24 in the morning that Tim was arrested. And for some reason, the public was reminded that people are innocent until proven guilty. Who said that? I mean, I know it's true, but ew. We know he's guilty. Get a grip. Get a grip. Tim was charged for 2 counts of... Why 2 counts? 2 counts of first-degree murder, for some reason, and 1 count of home invasion. And he was looking at between 45 and 85 years. So, fabulous so far. But no information regarding to gunshot residue was ever issued to the public. Again, after 20 days, can that still be tested? Probably not. But Tim had actually searched on his computer if it was possible to wash it off. So that kind of tells you a lot, doesn't it? Disposable gloves were found in Tim's house, in his rubbish, in his bin. But again, because it had been 8 fucking days, it wasn't possible to tell if there was still gunshot residue on it. Why did it take so long? The murder weapon, however, has never been recovered, so this was not found at Tim's address at all. Tim had never been charged with any kind of petty crime or anything prior to this, so maybe that's why they were sceptical, that you can kind of go from nothing to murder, but it happens. He was obviously, there was a very stressful situation that was going on, and he had a lot of resentment and a lot of hate for his still current wife. I cannot wrap my head around the time frame. It's just insane. I'm starting to confuse myself now. I'm actually starting to gaslight myself with whether Tim actually did it. Because it's like, I wrote this and I'm trying to convince myself that Tim is innocent, and I don't know why I wrote it like that. I have wrote down that there was a massive amount of pressure from the community to find out exactly who had done this to Rebecca, because obviously it's quite a violent, horrendous crime that also involves a home invasion. So people were anxious for answers. Apparently this put pressure on police, but I don't know why this pressure was going, because it took them so fucking long to do anything. I've put on here that the pressures led them to put all their eggs in one basket, and who do you look to first? The husband. which I know in some cases it's not the husband. But in this one, I'm pretty bleeding sure it was. I haven't read the end of this script. So Tim was one of those people that friends and family looked at and gone, no, not Tim. He couldn't have done that. I think he was quite active in his local church and he was a football coach to young kids. So everyone went, he couldn't possibly. During the trial, one of Becky's friends came forward, and I think I remember the picture from the courtroom actually, where they're going through the text messages that Becky had actually sent her. And I'm going to go through these with you. So March 14th, 2022, Becky had wrote, if he doesn't get his way, I feel he may literally lose his mind. Next message. I also got a security system. He wants everything. Sole custody of the kids, money, assets. He wants me to suffer. Next message. I've had not one, but 2 co-workers get murdered by their exes this last year, which has totally made me nervous. That's awful. Next message. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he would go off the deep end. Next message. He literally cares more about hurting me than anything else. So there was actually 46 witnesses in this case over 5 days, which sounds like a lot. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of court TV, but that sounds like a lot. So yeah, and the prosecution said the evidence overwhelmingly proved that Tim did this. So I don't know why I was trying to defend him in previous writing. It proved that Tim had broke into Becky's house with a crowbar, through a window and broke down her bedroom door and then shot her 14 times. On October 10th, 2022, John Smith's Facebook account inquires about a blue mountain bike for sale through Tim's phone. I wrote that so badly. So I think Tim's made a fake Facebook account and then messaged someone, or he's messaged John Smith about a blue mountain bike for sale. On October 12th, he messages Amy Webster about a black mountain bike and he purchases this bike. Sometime in January 2023, Tim speaks to his neighbour about the CCTV that he has in his garden. He asks if the video camera points towards his bike. On the night of Becky's murder, Tim's alibi was that he was at home looking after the boys, which he should have been. Someone is seen on neighbours' CCTV of someone riding in the direction of Becky's house and then riding back the other way later on a black bike. Becky's next door neighbour also had a Ring doorbell which had a notification of someone walking up the driveway. When the invader actually broke into Becky's home, she had attempted to call 911 and her mobile phone was found behind the bedroom door, so I think she was kind of trying to block the bedroom door as much as possible. The defence, of course, argued that none of the evidence that had been provided proved that Tim was anywhere near Becky's home when she was murdered. They couldn't place him there. I'm so shit at this. I've wrote, the jury deliberated for... End of sentence. There's nothing else there. But eventually, 11 jurors found Tim guilty of home invasion and 11 jurors found Tim guilty of first-degree murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison. Tim still protests his innocence and says that the thing that he said on Family Feud was just a joke. There was no malice in what he said. Oh, Tim apparently starred on an episode of 48 Hours in 2023. And that's where he stated the Family Feud thing was a joke and protested his innocence further. But I'm sorry. That, to me, I've read enough about murders for most people's lifetimes, and random attacks are reasonably rare and they are not that calculated, they're not that angry. That person was not, whoever killed Rebecca, which was Tim, was not looking to rob her. They didn't prove that she had enemies anywhere else. There's numerous text messages from various different co-workers, acquaintances and friends that Becky is expressing to them just how scared she is and that she feels like he may snap. She also said, if something happens to me, make sure Tim is looked into immediately. There's too many things for it to not be Tim. And the bike. They did find the bike. I think it was found placed near a high school. But again, it had probably been like 9 months since then, so I doubt there's any DNA on it because they're so fucking slow. Yeah, that is the story of the family feud killer. That is all from me today. I do need a positive thought, and I don't think I put any trigger warnings in for this, so that's good. I thought of a positive thought for my last positive thought, and then I thought I'll use that for the next one, and I forgot. Well, I do have a pretty, it's not really a positive thought, but it's just a thought. Or it's just a story. I went to somewhere the other day called Slim's Chickens. Banging for a start. And my brother really wants to try like Raising Cane's, and obviously it's not here. So I was like, this is kind of like the closest thing I can find that's close to us. So we went there and they did fried pickles. I've never been so in love with something in my life. Oh my God. I might have to go back there ASAP Rocky just to get fried pickles. I'll post a picture of mine and my brother's food. And it was unreal. I didn't like the toast because it was like garlic bread toast, and that just, no. I wish you could get just a box of McDonald's pickles, but like with the sauce, like literally, but pickles like out of the burgers. I would literally get like a whole burger box full of pickles. But I tried those, like, you know, those bags of the sour pickles, and they weren't, I like a very specific type of pickle. That's what she said. I will be back next week. I've got another, well, I wrote 2 cases this week. I wrote Sheila Keane and Joshua Davies. Oh, my back. Make good choices. Be careful who you marry. There's never any need for things to get as ugly as they can get. Sometimes we just need to take a breath, get some perspective on life, and just build a bridge, get over it. There's no need to just lose our heads. Don't say disrespectful things on TV that then go viral and bite you in the arse. When you've done something shitty, and you know you've done something shitty, like killed the mother of your children, just admit it. What is the point? You're in prison now. What is the point of just hanging on to saying you're innocent when we know you're not? It's okay to tell the truth. Don't get murdered. I'll see you next week. Love you, bye. To get that fucking song out my head. Popular. You're gonna be popular. Pink on pink. If you can see my makeup separated on my face, shut up. No, you can't. Who is Sheila Bloom? What is that from? Popular. Shit, I don't know how to say his name. Bliefnick. I wish I could get wicked out my head. If my hair broke it, does that count? Bliefnick. Shut up. I don't know what's wrong with me today. My brain is just spitting out shit. Shush. You're gonna be popular. Stop rambling. And in sight, apparently. There's something on my wall. What is that? There's a spider there. There's something there as well. What is that? Popular. Shut up. I just stopped for a second then and thought, silence. And my brain went, popular. Became... That doesn't make any sense. Scrap it. On October 20th,